What's going on, everybody? I'm Matt Harmon. Welcome to the Yahoo Fantasy Forecast, and it is a hell of a day to talk ball. Week 9 Sunday officially in the books. What a wild, close, competitive Sunday we had here, except for the first game on the docket, but we'll get to that in just a second. We've got Chris Allen coming through later to recap everything that happened in what was a very exciting Sunday slate of football. But first, we do have to talk about Sunday Night Football, the one just complete train wreck of a football game that we got here. Seahawks 38, Commanders 14. Let's start on the bright side of things here. A dominant performance from the Seattle Seahawks, specifically in their passing game. I mean, shoot, if there wasn't a very significant thing that we have to talk about on the Commanders side of it, I was joking with the producers before we started recording this, we could have done the damn recap of this game in like the mid-first quarter. It was apparent very early on that Seattle was going to push all the right buttons, that they had all the right numbers to hit against this Commanders team, and the Commanders defense had zero answer for the Seahawks. And frankly, I mean, that defensive performance in the first half was actually the second most embarrassing thing that you could say about the Washington Commanders operation tonight. But again, we'll get to that in a second. Seattle just, man, they just came out right away firing downfield against a weirdly man coverage heavy defense. At least it looked like it on the broadcast from the Washington Commanders. I mean, guys, you do not have the horses on the back end to play man coverage. You've seen it all season long. They're trying to be this man coverage heavy team, and they get fried when they're in man coverage. And then because they emphasize man coverage so much from a zone coverage standpoint, they can't pass routes off on motion and stuff like that. So it's a really brutal operation for that Commanders defense, which, much like we're going to say when we get to the offense, they bet on old. They bet on old and slow this offseason, and so far they're getting fried by teams that are just more athletic and bring a lot more dynamism to the table offensively on this defense, and that just is what it is. This defense has been a problem all season long, and Seattle's passing offense has been cooking all season long, and they got off to a complete firestorm at the beginning of this game. Sam Darnold completed 100% of his passes in the first half. 100% of his passes were completed in this first half. He was absolutely on fire. He only threw in 3 incompletions the entire night. So it wasn't as if things really slowed down. It slowed down a little bit in the second half, but not to an insane degree. 16 of 16 in the first half, 17.6 yards per attempt, and 4 touchdowns in the first half of this game. Of course, the leading man was Jackson Smith-Njigba, who had another 100-yard game. He had 119 yards through the air in the first half. He finishes with 129. He also had a rush attempt in this game as well. So 130-plus yards from scrimmage for Jackson Smith-Njigba. You love to see it. He has been the wide receiver one, just complete freak show this season. He's having an unbelievable year. He only plays 22.6% of his snaps in the slot in this game. They did a few things to like weaponize him. They got him in the backfield at one point. Like Clint Kubiak, just hats off. In a league where I feel like I'm constantly tracking like who's doing the best job and who's doing the worst job in terms of maximizing and highlighting your number one wide receiver. That's what the best offenses are doing right now. Seattle is up at the top of the list in terms of who is doing the best to maximize their wide receiver one. Helps that this guy is always open. The route running tape on him this year is A++. And he was already somebody that was on that upward trajectory coming into the year anyways. He's been so locked in from a man coverage standpoint. Remember the takes where it was like, what? How are the Seahawks going to deploy Jackson Smith-Njigba and Cooper Kupp? Hilarious. Jackson Smith-Njigba is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL this year, full stop. He's been unbelievable. Let's talk about the rest of the passing players in this game. And how about my guy, Tory Horton? 4 catches, 4 targets, 2 touchdowns in the first half of this game. Without Cooper Kupp, he was immediately plugged into the starting lineup. 83% route participation in this game, tied with A.J. Barner for second on the team behind Jackson Smith-Njigba. Awesome game from Tory Horton. He showed you everything that you wanted to see in this game. And I love Tory Horton as a prospect. If you guys have been listening to the show since the draft, you guys know how I feel about this player and was really excited to see him earn a role on this team coming out of training camp, because I felt like that was enough to sort of justify what I felt about him, which is he was not a day 3 talent. I don't know what the doctors saw reviewing the medicals on this guy, because yeah, he did miss a chunk of time with a knee injury last season. Couldn't quite figure out exactly what that knee injury was, but again, he misses a chunk of time last season. He comes back and he participates at the combine and rips off a 4.4 at the NFL Scouting Combine, and he still falls to day 3. He falls to the 5th round. I had this guy as like an early day 2 type of player. Said this morning he was somebody to pick up with the Cooper Kupp injury, and he even exceeded my expectations in this game. What's really interesting now about the Tory Horton thing is that I thought, because I just wrote this piece about rookie wide receivers, Nate and I talked about this on the Fantasy Film Room episode, talked about that article, and Tory Horton's one of these guys when we're talking about the second half of the rookie season, that rise for some of these usually day 2, day 3 guys who really take off and become those sort of, quote, league-winning types. The tough part about Tory Horton was that I thought there was very little chance that he overtook Cooper Kupp just outright, because clearly, if you listen to the broadcast, the team really values Cooper Kupp, even from just like an intelligence and a mentorship perspective. Chris Collinsworth could not stop giving Cooper Kupp a ton of credit for Jackson Smith-Njigba's incredible season, teaching him the finer points of the position. And honestly, maybe that's true. When I interviewed Puka Nacua after his rookie record-breaking season, he gave a lot of credit and a lot of pop to Cooper Kupp in terms of being that kind of big brother in the room and teaching him the ropes. So I don't know. Maybe teams should just sign Cooper Kupp until he's 45 to just be a mentor in the room. Or maybe he should just be a position coach, a wide receiver coach. Perhaps that's his future. I don't know. I don't know how much credit to give Cooper Kupp in the Jackson Smith-Njigba season, but clearly he's a valuable piece for the Seahawks offense, especially what he does from a run blocking perspective. So I thought it was kind of going to be difficult for Tory Horton to just push Cooper Kupp to the side, because the team gave him a lot of money, big name player. And even if he'd only had really one productive game as a wide receiver against the Pittsburgh Steelers, I still thought that was unlikely. However, this hamstring injury for Cooper Kupp, and he missed this game, there's a chance you could miss multiple games. Injury in practice, hamstring. He's a 30-plus-year-old receiver. I think it cracks the door open for Tory Horton. And if that door is cracked open, Horton has the talent to push right through the crack. Again, I don't know if he's going to outright displace Cooper Kupp as the wide receiver too. But even if he starts a couple of games in place of Cooper Kupp, you're going to want to consider Tory Horton as a fantasy flex option, because the route participation was there. This team is 31st in their 11 personnel usage so far this season. Again, that's why it's critical that Horton, even if he's talented, has to be the number 2 receiver on the team. He can't just be running behind Cooper Kupp, because we've seen what that's been. It had been weeks since he had even caught a pass, Tory Horton. And he's made some rookie mistakes this year, but by and large, it's just, hey, he's not on the field enough. But when the 2 wide receivers are on the field, when it's heavy personnel, it's 2 tight ends. Yeah, you saw Elijah Arroyo have a big play in this game. A.J. Barner caught 3 passes for 24 yards and had a tush-push touchdown. Of course, we'll get to the running backs in just a moment here. The targets consolidate to those outside receivers in 12 personnel, multiple tight ends, 2 running backs in the backfield, any of that type of stuff. Yeah, that bring it, the idea there, and the Seahawks are the perfect distillation of this idea right now, because their run game stinks. Their run game's not good. They cannot establish that thing. But even still, they're getting teams to match them in base personnel, and then they're just throwing the football, and they're pushing the football down the field. And it's, again, that was why I called this defensive performance embarrassing from Washington, because their run game's not good. What are you doing biting up on that play action? They can't help it, though, because it's just ingrained in the brain of football players. All right, heavy set, where this could be a run. We got to bite on that play action. It's just human nature. And then you see teams take advantage of it. You see Seattle taking advantage of it perhaps better than anybody else. So as long as Horton's on the field as that wide receiver 2, I'm not saying he's going to score 2 touchdowns every single week, but you're going to see the talent that I see in Tory Horton, and he's going to be somebody that you can consider starting for your fantasy football team. On the backfield, look, This is the state of the Seahawks run game. They get some explosive plays, not explosive plays, but they get some good runs out of Kenneth Walker. Zach Charbonnet only 8 for 25, 3.1 a carry, 3.8 a carry for Kenneth Walker. Neither one of these guys makes much noise in the passing game. Zach Charbonnet had a 21-yard reception. Kenneth Walker caught both of his targets, but it's not enough to save the floor of these guys. If they don't score a touchdown, they do not have a floor. And A.J. Barner gets like a tush-push touchdown here. The number one tight end is getting tush-push stuff for this team. So I can guarantee you guys we will be talking about one of these Seahawks running backs in the People's Panic Meter segment tomorrow. I see we already have a submission for Kenneth Walker. So we'll break that down with Boone tomorrow. But this is just what the Seahawks backfield is. If something changes, we can have a conversation. If one of these guys is removed, or if Kenneth Walker's, kind of usage changes as the season wears on, we can have a conversation. But right now, yeah, these guys are complete touchdown or bust flex plays. And even in a strong matchup, in the ideal game script, Seattle chose to lean into their passing game more and more, and look at the results. It's pretty hard to argue going with that approach there. On the Commanders side of things here, the season is over. It was already over, but then when Jayden Daniels, you're down 38-7 late in the game, he suffers an arm injury. If you guys haven't seen the play, I don't recommend going to find it if you're squeamish at all. It was not fun to watch Jayden Daniels. This is now his third injury of the season. And, considering just the way it looked, the response I saw on social media from some of the, the Twitter docs and everything, I'd be bracing for a potential season-ending injury here for Jayden Daniels. Hopefully I'm wrong. Maybe we get some good news tomorrow. But right now it does not look good for Jayden Daniels. And this team is now 3-6. It's just, season's over. Okay. Like that it is what it is. You're not coming back from this one. Honestly, this is a team that's loaded with older players. I wonder if they should consider selling off some of those older players at the trade deadline. I don't know that they have anybody who's going to get them a major return, but I did not love the plan by this team to come in here this season with Jayden Daniels in his second year and just double and triple down on these veteran players, these older guys. Their wide receiver room kills me every single week. It kills me every single week. We got our Noah Brown mention, gang. We got our Noah Brown mention in this one. Oh, the Commanders didn't have Noah Brown. Come on, man. Noah Brown was going to be one of their top 3 receivers. What are we doing? They messed around with the Terry McLaurin contract. I'm sure Terry obviously played hardball. He better play hardball. This was his last chance to get a big payday. And based on the way this season's going, if he had tried to play out one last year, it's not going well. But if I'm a Commanders fan, it would be in my mind, like, if they'd just gotten this deal done with him earlier, would he not be dealing with all these injuries? It's on my mind. If you're a fan of this team, it would be bothering me as well. And without him, they just don't have any juice on the perimeter. Treylon Burks has taken major snaps for this team. Jalen Lane is not a perimeter wide receiver at this point in his career. Zach Ertz and Deebo Samuel are your leading receivers. It's just not good enough, man. It's just not good enough. So I don't think this team is going anywhere. I think they should be looking at a bottom out season here and just try to recoup next year. Reload year 3 under Jayden Daniels. Get younger, faster, more explosive. Lean into some more volatility of younger players and don't worry about assignment execution and all that stuff. That to me, that's what I would be doing. And again, I don't know if they have any of these guys that really catch a major return at the trade deadline, but if you can get some picks for some of these older guys, I'd explore it because this season is over. It's not going anywhere. We're going to have to watch this team in Spain in a couple weeks take on the Miami Dolphins. So I don't know how that makes you feel. Again, nothing changes with the fantasy players in this offense. Everybody gets a significant downgrade if there's no Jayden Daniels. And again, I don't think we're going to see Jayden Daniels for the rest of the season. Meanwhile, Jacory Krosky-Merritt, 12 carries, 38 yards, 1 catch for 3. This is the story with him. Again, maybe that matchup with the Dolphins is better, but Terry McLaurin better be back. Deebo Samuel better be healthy. Or else it's just going to not be a good enough offense for an early down banger who doesn't play on pass downs. It's just too difficult to be that player when you need to score touchdowns and your team's not scoring touchdowns anymore. So, yeah, Dan Quinn is going to leave himself open to a lot of criticism for the way this went down with Jayden Daniels. I know you can't just like wave the white flag in the NFL. It's at some point you want to get these guys competing. Jayden Daniels doesn't want to come out of the game, but designed rush attempts at the goal line with your quarterback like that. I mean, maybe he was going to throw the ball in that play. I don't know. But again, the way that play went down, where it was in the game, and when it was all but over deep down in garbage time like that, and your quarterback suffers that kind of injury, his third injury of the year, in what's ultimately been a lost season, you're going to leave yourself open to criticism. And, I'm not going to push back on anybody that has strong feelings on how that went. So unfortunately, the Commanders are looking like one of those teams that I know Marcus Mariota has been competent for this team before, but that requires Terry McLaurin to be out there and playing at the level we saw last year. And we haven't seen that enough this year. So the Commanders are looking like one of those teams that we can just kind of start to cross off, as the season goes on. There's going to be better matchups than going against the Seattle team, but their defense gives it up way too much on the other side. Their offense can't hang in those situations right now, so they're going to be in a lot more of these ugly type scripts. I feel for your Washington fans. You had a hell of a year last year. It was a ton of fun, but again, I just don't love the way that this team approached building the operation in the offseason. I think they're paying for some of those sins right now, and I would be trying to be forward thinking. It's not this year. Reload. Try to get younger faster next offseason, build this team around Jayden Daniels in a much more serious way.